Welcome, everyone, to the Donovan Live postgame show right here on WKYC's Facebook Live on this Tuesday evening, along with Jimmy Donovan. I'm Dave DiNatale, and first time you and I have had a chance to kind of catch up since Super Bowl Sunday, since the end of the game. Boy, exciting another exciting Patriots-related Super Bowl. They seem to all go down to the wire when they play.
Yeah, I think every one of them has, except probably two. The early ones for the Patriots, if you remember, Raymond Berry was their head coach.
That's right.
In '85, they got just annihilated by the Bears, who annihilated everything. And then the game against Green Bay, Parcells'
last game.
Yeah. But other than that, the Belichick ones have all been tight, whether they've won them or lost them.
And boy, we had talked about it going into the game. You know, could Jim Schwartz dial up enough pressure to affect Brady? And all game long, it didn't happen. You're sitting there going, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And finally, that front four, when they needed it the most, when everybody kind of was sitting there going, boy, we've seen this movie before. They get the strip sack, and essentially the game is over. And boy, what a just amazing Philadelphia story.
It really is. Because, you know, even with Carson Wentz, when he was playing before he tore his ACL, you know, I was watching their scores and I'm going, wow, I mean, they're playing well, but I still didn't put them in the Super Bowl talk, and yet they were right up at the top all year long. I mean, they were like the first team to clinch, and they wrapped up home field advantage. And then when he got hurt, I thought that was going to be devastating to them, that, you know, Nick Foles would come in and play. And if you remember now, he had a couple of rough games when he came in and played, but they had everything wrapped up. But then he was a little bit better by the end of the year, by their last game. And then he was sensational in the playoffs. I mean, he was good against Atlanta, but he was great against Minnesota, and he was fantastic against the Patriots. They did what so many teams have not done against New England, and that is, you have to keep on scoring.
You got to keep the pressure on.
You must keep on scoring. To think that the Philadelphia defense or any other defense, or the Jacksonville one, who almost did it a couple of weeks, prior to the Super Bowl, if you think that you're going to throw a net over that offense of the Patriots with Tom Brady at the controls, you're dreaming. So you have to keep scoring. It's something that Atlanta did not do last year in the Super Bowl. It's something that Jacksonville did not do when they were up 20-10.
Exactly.
And in the second half of that game, in the AFC Championship game, it's something that Pittsburgh did not do in the Jesse James game.
Indeed.
They had a 10-point lead and they let that get away. You have to keep on scoring. I just didn't think they could do it. And they proved me and a lot of other people wrong.
Well, and as I thought about, I really looked at this Eagles team as I wrote a piece last night at WKYC.com. To me, I guess it wasn't a surprise when I thought about how well Nick Foles played, because if you think about the two guys that were kind of getting him ready to go in the postseason and certainly in the Super Bowl, two guys who made their bones in the NFL as backup quarterbacks, guys that knew how to stay ready. Doug Peterson, who of course was behind Brett Favre with Holmgren, and ended up being behind the Browns, playing behind Tim Couch, and Frank Reich, who might be one of the best backup quarterbacks ever when he was behind Jim Kelly.
And engineered the greatest comeback ever, right?
Right. So, they got him, I think in the right mentality to stay ready, be ready, and when you have the opportunity, take it. Jimmy, the other thing that stood out to me when I looked at how this Eagles team was built, remember 2 years ago they had gotten rid of Chip Kelly, and Howie Roseman, who had lost the power struggle as GM, got his power back. They made 13 of the 22 starters in Super Bowl 52 were guys that were brought in over the last 2 years. They made a total of 130 transactions, player transactions, in the 2017 season. I think they brought in 23 new faces. And I guess the point being, you can't turn things around in the NFL. And I'm not trying to say the Cleveland Browns are going to be in the Super Bowl next year. Not even close. But what I am saying is, yes, it is possible. You make the right moves. You make some shrewd moves. You get the chemistry right, and you can turn things around.
But you got to get the quarterback
right.
All right, and when they made that trade, unfortunately, with the Browns, that set them a sail.
Right.
Because I don't think they would be anywhere near where they are right now. I mean, they're fooling around with Michael Vick and all these guys that were in there, and it just wasn't going to happen. I mean, you have to get the quarterback. Once you get him, then you can, put a lot of people around him and do things like that. But I'll tell you what, it's just an amazing story. But we have some
breaking sports news courtesy of one Christopher Ty. According to Adam Schefter of ESPN, we just got this hot off the press, Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels has decided not to accept the Indianapolis Colts head coaching job. He will stay with New England.
So this opens up a whole different avenue of conversation.
Yep.
Now this had been talked about actually during the game on Sunday.
Yep.
That Matt Patricia was definitely going to Detroit, the Patriots defensive coordinator, to take the Lions job. There was no question. He was not having second thoughts. He was going. Although after that performance on Sunday by the Patriots defense, the Lions might have had second thoughts. That's another story. That's another postgame show. Okay. This one, though, broke that why hadn't McDaniels, made more strides. I mean, Patricia had basically hired some coaches for the Lions coaching staff, and McDaniels hadn't done anything. Now, there was a story that kind of leaked out during the game Sunday that McDaniels was having second thoughts. Now, remember, there was an ESPN article that came out about, about 2 weeks ago that said there was a lot of strife inside the Patriots organization. Tension between the Krafts, the owners, Tom Brady, and Bill Belichick, but mostly between Belichick and Brady, with the Kraft siding with Tom Brady, okay? And the whole, the genesis of the Jimmy Garoppolo trade, why was it done? Why was it done the way it was done? Why didn't they get more in the trade?
The personal trainer that has seemed
Alex
to kind of Guerrero that's kind of taken over the building.
So now this opens up the door to, is Belichick going to leave as the head coach of the team? Now Boston is burning down in controversy right now over what Belichick did on Sunday when he benched their second best cornerback on the team, Malcolm Butler, for some reason. A guy that had played every defensive snap in the playoffs and 98% of the snaps during the regular season. And they put Eric Rowe in there, and the kid got torched all day long. And they ended up, of course, losing the game. And really, people are really furious back there about why you would do that. If he had violated a rule or something, send him home. But he didn't. I mean, he just was dressed on the sideline. This kid Rowe was told right after Pink finished the national anthem and put
you're starting.
You're going to start in the game. So you wonder about Josh McDaniels, what he's going to do. Now, earlier in the day, there had been a press conference scheduled for tomorrow. In Indianapolis that he was going to be announced as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. The only other thing that you wonder is this. Did he find out something about Andrew Luck and the health of his shoulder, the quarterback of the Colts, who hasn't really even started throwing, I don't believe. I think he's going to start very soon to try and get that shoulder in throwing shape. This is fascinating. But it leads to, is something going on with Belichick that he's going to leave? Or retire?
Just last week, ESPN had the 30 for 30 documentary, The Two Bills, that we talked about on this show, about basically how Belichick and Bill Parcells were a team all throughout their time with the Giants, in New England, with the Jets, and then suddenly at the end, kind of a misunderstanding and a fracture took place about who was going to be the successor with the Jets, and Belichick wanted to go to the Patriots. And they both those guys admitted they handled things wrong. I wonder if Belichick kind of pulled McDaniels aside and said, hey, look, before you take the job, I'm really thinking maybe I'm out of here. And just keep that in mind. Well, now remember,
now they've flown home. They got home yesterday, in the late afternoon. They got back to Foxborough. Matt Patricia had told them formally, I'm going to Detroit. I'm going to be the head coach of the Lions. And it appeared anyway during the day today that McDaniels had definitely taken the Colts job. They had agreed upon it. Now, the only other thing that you wonder, I had not heard any mention that there was a contract done between the Colts and him. And I don't know if there was one that could be done because of the whole Super Bowl rule and you can't get a deal done. But, I mean, you could have one done verbally. This is amazing. But I'm telling you, for a team that is just coming back from the Super Bowl, the New England Patriots not only lost the game, but they are filled with controversy right now.
The,
and
the Gronkowski stuff is all over the place.
Yeah, could he retire?
Right.
Does he want to play anymore? Is it because of injuries? Is it because of, the fact that he doesn't think he's getting paid enough? Now, I will say this. There's another developing story today that's been going on in the late afternoon, and that is that this kid, Malcolm Butler, put out a tweet, give me the language on that.
It's a tweet or a post,
something.
Basically, hey, look, what they're saying about me isn't true, and it's hurting my family.
I did not go out, miss curfew. I did not go to concerts. I might have had a bad day at practice. A number of Patriots players, led by Tom Brady, liked his tweet.
Yep.
Or his text, or whatever.
His
however
Facebook
you do
post.
that.
Yeah, whatever.
However you do that out there,
whatever
kids.
It was, yeah.
And they liked that, and I mean, that was directly a shot. There it is.
David just grabbed it. Yeah, Malcolm Butler. We'll show it to you in a second.
But I mean, that's a direct, salvo at the head coach Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
So wow.
I mean Malcolm Butler. No offense to the other guy, but I mean. They could have used Malcolm Butler against Alshon Jeffrey and Nelson Aguilar and Torrey Smith.
Here's the other thing. Josh McDaniels has been a really mysterious head coaching candidate for a number of years now. Because remember, as a real young whippersnapper, he got the head coaching job with the Denver Broncos and all the power too.
Right.
Okay, and he got off to like a 6-0 start, didn't he, in his first year? One of the ones was against the Browns.
Yes.
And then it kind of blew up. It didn't happen.
Yep.
He got fired there.
The Cutler thing kind of, ended up blowing up in his face. Yeah.
He went to St. Louis, remember, as a coordinator there, and then they worked this deal where St. Louis let him out of the deal to go to New England and help them, and he went back to New England from where he came. Now, he has been interviewed a number of times for a head coaching job, and I think the Browns twice have contacted him when they've had their head coaching vacancies. But he's been very, very timid and very taking all kinds of precautions before he takes the next head coaching job. If this is true that he's not taking the Indianapolis job, not only is this a big New England story, but boy, the Colts now, where are they?
Right. I mean, because we talk about this. It's February. I mean. Everybody's everybody's getting their staff. I mean, Hugh Jackson has his staff ready to go. I mean, everybody now, we're getting close to the combine. The list of players who are going to be in Indianapolis later this month is out. I mean, people are getting ready for the season, and now if you're the Ursays, you got to go back and you go back to square one and say, okay, we got to start a new round of interviews because our guy's gone.
Well, I'll tell you what, you would look at a guy now, they have to find a new coach, obviously, and I don't know, who their other candidates are on their list that they had, other than they targeted Josh McDaniels right away. Jim Schwartz.
I was going to say that I would
have to tell you, a guy that you just mentioned, Frank Reich.
I would call both those coordinators.
Yeah, I think they deserve a look.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the breaking news. As we just had it a moment ago from Adam Schefter of ESPN. Josh McDaniels, the local boy, the Canton boy, who we all thought was going to Indianapolis after the Super Bowl to become the head coach of the Colts. He has decided not to go to Indy. He will stay with New England. And of course, now 1,000 questions about the future of Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, on and on.
But not Malcolm Butler.
Not Malcolm Butler. We know kind of what's happening to him.
Although I would say this, Dino, if Belichick left, Malcolm Butler would probably be welcome back. That was a real rub between Belichick and Butler. Now remember, Butler's the kid that saved them a Super Bowl when he stepped in front of that Russell Wilson pass a few years ago on the goal line, and they won that Super Bowl over Seattle. But he was going to be a free agent. He was ticked off about his offer that he got from New England. It looked like he was going to be traded in the Brandon Cooks deal with New Orleans, and it's been kind of a sandpapery kind of relationship all year long between the Patriots and Malcolm Butler. But he is a heck of a player. I mean, I would take him here. I have to tell you.
I would too.
Yeah.
He'd start. Boy, I'd love to have him in our secondary. Okay, that's the soap opera in New England. I mean, listen to Boston Talk Radio tonight if you want to be in for a treat. Soap opera here in Cleveland, of course, revolves around the Cavaliers. You talked about it tonight on Channel 3 News at 6. Our good friend Jason Lloyd of The Athletic really laid it out today. The friction that we thought maybe it was just between LeBron James and Dan Gilbert that we've always known about. I mean, it sounds like it's almost like a virus that's spreading, Jimmy, and I don't know how they're going to fix this. I mean, they've got 2 days now between now and the trading deadline. If they want to make a significant move, I'm sure they're trying, but I don't know if this can be mended.
Well, I mean, and basically what Jason wrote was the meeting, the infamous team meeting that everybody kind of piled on Kevin Love for being sick and leaving that Oklahoma City game at halftime, not going to practice the next day. There was a lot more to the meeting.
Yes.
Apparently, LeBron was very vocal and went at two team executives verbally in the meeting at a very high level of voice. The other thing was, what came out in the article, that LeBron thought it was a bad move trading Kyrie Irving. He thought that if you could have brought Kyrie to training camp, they would have been able to smooth things out. And I would agree with that.
I was totally going to say, I think we advocated that on this show.
And that there is no relationship right now between LeBron and the owner and LeBron and the young GM, Kobe Altman. And that and he feels very left out of decisions that he used to be called in on or asked his opinion of in years past. You just wondered, if everybody's at the end of their rope.
Right.
In this thing.
I kind of feel the more you talk about it, I mean, Stephen A. Smith said something today about, Dan Gilbert has had it with LeBron James. I just, you just want to kind of tell everybody, take a step back and really think about this.
Right.
Because if you have a divorce at the end of the season and there's not a real plan for how the Cavaliers are going to continue to compete for years in advance, we're going to go back to what we saw from 2010 to 2014, and that's really bad basketball. So everybody think real close. That's my advice to Dan Gilbert and Kobe Altman and everybody over at Cleveland Clinic Courts and the Q. Think hard about what you're doing right now.
Well, here's the key. I mean, you're going to look for an indicator, and the indicator is this. That trade deadline will come up Thursday at 3. If they take it to the deadline, if they deal away the Brooklyn draft choice,
right,
then you know that they have come to some kind of an agreement, and LeBron has given them an indication that he's in it beyond this year to stay here. If they don't trade that Brooklyn draft pick, then they don't have enough evidence that he's going to stay. And, Dino, in business sense, that's a smart thing to do because that is at least your ticket to get back up and start to rebuild the team. The fact that they, were awful after LeBron left, but they were able to get Kyrie Irving pretty close after that, that got them going.
That got them moving.
It still, it wasn't enough, and there were hard years, but at least you could build around him. And that's what they're going to have to do.
Right. Now, the other possibility is, okay, if they decide, look, this season, it's a loss. But if they decide to kind of tuck that chip, that draft pick in their pocket, and remember kind of what happened in late June before the draft. That was kind of when the Paul George stuff happened before the draft, or right around the time of the draft. If the Cavs can hold on to it, but still make a move after the season that could still be like, hey, LeBron, we're still all in. I don't know. I mean, I would think, though, if we don't see anything, if we hear crickets between now and Thursday, that's not a real good sign, probably.
No. And the only other thing is, I think, logistically, they would like to dump some salary.
Well, I guess.
I mean, they're looking at Tristan Thompson and J.R. Smith, who is, really not played well now in a year and a half. They'd like to get rid of those contracts.
Right.
So, I mean, they would like to get themselves some breathing room. I mean, they are, luxury tax personified here. They got to dump something off the side of the boat here.
Yeah.
They can't carry this, especially if it's not clicking. If it's not working.
Right.
Why are you paying these guys as much money if you can get out of those deals? But who's going to take those deals?
Right. So, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but to me, again, it all goes back to David Griffin. I just think. I don't know if LeBron would have done what he did in that meeting if Griff would have been there, because it sounded like they had a relationship enough where they could converse. And like last January when LeBron was upset in New Orleans because he needed help, and then of course the Cavs went out and got help. It was like a harbinger of bad things to come. And I've never kind of gotten over that stink of how that all played itself out. And I don't think they would have done the Boston trade. I do think they would have tried to figure out a way to have Kyrie and LeBron coexist.
Right.
I'm not saying the man was a miracle worker. I'm just saying I don't think we would have gone down the path that we're at right now.
Yeah, I think that was very unsettling, and I think Griffin. I think David would have loved to have given the Kyrie thing a shot.
Yes.
I think that because I think there were other, situations with him that under his tenure here that he was able to work things out. I mean, he realized, and it was very difficult for him to realize it because he was a part of the whole decision, David Blatt. But he realized it wasn't working. The team wasn't happy, and yet they had enough talent that they could win a title, but they weren't going to win a title in the mood that they were in at that time, and he made that move. And you have to have a guy that can be, a real mediator in this, not just a deal maker, but you are dealing with so many egos, not just on the Cavs, but probably on every NBA team,
sure.
but certainly on the Cavs. You're dealing with so many different personalities and egos, and each player has a camp.
Yep.
They've got a bunch of guys that kind of drive their life. I mean, it's amazing. So a guy like David Griffin was able to maneuver through all of that, and I thought he did a great job. When you lose him for the reasons they lost him, that's not a good sign.
We also wrote today, is there a rift between Tyronn Lue and Kobe Altman? I mean, Tyronn Lue's been under fire, and it looks like at this point, he's not going to get fired, but things can change very quickly. I mean, you never know. But that dynamic, I don't know if that's working because again, I mean, Kobe Altman, in fairness to him, he didn't hire Ty Lue. He's not, they're not joined. It's one of those things where you're kind of like you're inheriting the coach.
Yeah. Well, if Adrian Wojnarowski says that you're not going to be fired, I mean that's a great feeling of security.
Yes.
Because you could check with your guy in your organization, am I going to be fired? But if you hear it from Adrian Wojnarowski, and that's who had it the other night, that despite the 32-point loss, embarrassing loss to the Rockets, and the way things had gone in January before that, and the way the team has been playing, and the way they've been bickering with each other, he was okay. Well, the other thing is they owe him $21 million.
Well, yeah.
So,
I mean, that's they're already paying a lot of money. What you might consider dead money. So they don't want to do that anymore. So Cavs are playing the Magic tonight. Jimmy, you'll have highlights tonight at Channel 3 News at 11, and we'll have more again on the story. Thanks to Chris Ty for handing this to us again from the NFL up in New England. Josh McDaniels not going to be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts per Adam Schefter. He will remain in New England, and who knows? He may become the head coach of the Patriots.
He will always be a John Carroll Blue Streak.
Yes, and a Canton McKinley Bulldog.
That's right.
All right. Jimmy, as always, thank you, my friend.
You got it.
All right, thank you to David Herberton, our producer-director, and thank you all for watching the Donovan Live postgame show right here on WKYC's Facebook Live.